Welkom op het Cement Event 2011. We staan hier in het Amsterdamse Binnenhuis waar het evenement dit jaar zal plaatsvinden. Vandaag staat het evenement in het teken van een dialoog tussen architect en constructeur. We hebben vandaag een heel interessant programma voor u. Sprekers onder meer Walter Spangenberg van ABT, Joop Paul van ARUP en Arjan Dingstee van UN Studio. Maar natuurlijk ook Kim Nielsen van het beroemde architectenbureau 3xN uit Denemarken. Hij is de architect van het BIM-huis waar we nu staan. Wij hebben er zin in, ik hoop u ook.
We start up here. Yeah, my name is Kim Herford Nielsen. I'm the founder, as you were told, of 3 times Nielsen. What I think creates, I was asked to come with a statement. And I think what creates architecture and engineer work is the challenges we have to solve, the problems that comes up. The more challenges, the more problems, the better architecture and the better engineer work, I think, comes out of it. Another thing that's very important for me when we do architecture is behavior. As I say, architecture shapes behavior, and we made this exhibition a year ago where we came out with a book about this subject. I like to make architecture in between context and icon, and in between technology and science. Architecture has a place, that's why it has to be within a context. It's a big difference between architecture and free art, is that it is relevant to a certain place. It can be an icon telling a story about the building and what's in it. And I think there should be some science and technology in the building, of course, too. And it has to be art, to be real architecture for me. I'll start with a project here, Middelfart Saving Bank. That's a small bank that we made in the middle of Denmark. It's a small town, Middelfart. There's only 5,000 inhabitants there. And the saving bank is the institute for the whole little community. It's where all the small businesses have their loans, and it's an important place for the village or for the town. So the context is this small town where here's a pedestrian street where we have to put a new building. All the buildings around it are fairly small building, and we had to create a building that's 5,000 square meters, where all the other buildings are maybe 200, 300, 400 square meters. So we have to lower it down so it fit into the surroundings. Okay, you have it? Great. Another thing is that when we started, it was a competition. When we started up the competition, there was already a building at the site, a bank on the site, and this was the old building. And we asked the building, this client, if we could demolish the old building, but they said no. We are a saving bank, so we have to keep as much of the old construction as possible. So what we did was to build on top of the old construction. So actually, the problem became the solution for the fit out. And as I said, this bank was the center of the community. They had no big spaces or big cultural spaces in the town, so we created this indoor plaza as a community space for the town. And up here are all the employers sitting, working, and the director up here. So when he comes in the morning, he goes up and say hello to everybody, and then that's up here. That is about behavior. It's very important that for this institute that they know each other and they play together. Underneath here, there's a book shop that is connected to what the first picture you saw, the pedestrian street up here. Then we have to put a roof on, and the roof has to shelter, of course, for the rain and for the wind. At the same time, it has to shelter for the sun. And there's a view out this way here, out to the sea. So that made the idea of the shaping of the roof. So again, it is the challenge that designs more or less, or decides what we have to design. And we like to work with prefabricated elements. And we did these forms here that is made in a factory, and it was actually so easy to put this prefabricated elements on the building. It was supposed to take 3 weeks, but it only took 3 days. So certainly it was more a question about getting trucks fast enough to the site. It is a concrete construction underneath here for the layout, but the top construction here is a steel construction with aluminum sheltered roof. So when you see it from the water side, it looks quite different from the city side, and it blends into the small scale of the small town. But as soon as you come up into the air, you can see it's a lot more iconic in a way. There the iconic things comes in, because this is the center business of the small community. So it has to have this value too. There's a big bridge over to this side here, from where you can look down on the saving bank. So there you get this kind of view. But when you are going on the street level, you get another kind of view. So the building is both big and small at the same time. And everything in the building is actually designed out from needs to shelter for the sun, needs to look out to the water, and needs to open up for the big entrance here and whatever. And that makes the shape of the building. So it's very functionalistic in that sense. But at the same time, it has an arty side to it, of course. That's how we come in and what we want to do with it. This is the oldest building in the town, and it's actually where the saving bank started 100 years ago or more. And we sort of worked with this, made a reference to this woodwork in the way that we work with the facade, but in a modern way. And that is, of course, how we work with the art side of the building. And when you come in, the sheltering of the roof becomes the ceiling inside, and becomes the decoration of the inside too. So everything comes up in a higher level. The necessity to the sheltering becomes a pattern on the ceiling. And this is where the daylight comes in, and this is where the artificial light comes in as well. And the staircases becomes more than staircases, it becomes places for people to sit. Here we work together, engineers and architects, closely in getting the construction of the building within the design of the building. And this is what I think it is very much about when you do architecture. We don't play by ourselves. We have to have a good engineer to play together with to get a result like this. Actually, all these panels up here are not only panels for the construction. It is acoustic lowering materials. So when you go into the surrounding, there's a very low acoustic atmosphere in the place. And here's a day when they have a concert in the inside plaza, and they have their Christmas tree parties in the building as well. Anybody in the town can come and ask to loan this space here for different kinds of events. We did a building for a gymnasium, a high school in Copenhagen. Again, another competition out in the new town, Ørestad. Here it is. This is all built within the last 10 years in Copenhagen. We did this building here, and we're doing this hotel. I'll come back to that later. This is nearly finished now. And this gymnasium, as it's called in Danish, I think it's more or less the same word in Dutch, is about learning. So from the outside, it's resembling a bookshelf. The louvers here that is for sun shading purpose is moving with the sun and has got letters on it, so it assembles books on the outside. But when you come into the building, it's a big space, because what the client wanted was one big learning environment. We had to stack it up in 5 floors, but they wanted a big, very flexible learning environment without classrooms. So we stacked it a boomerang shape up in 5 floors like this, so there's visual connection from top to bottom. And the further you come out to the surface here, the more quiet it becomes, and the closer you are to the middle, the more commotion. Here is after we won the competition, we put the whole brief the whole program out on a model 1 to 50 and had some workshops with the client. And after a couple of months, we came out with this layout where we have 3 auditoriums, round auditoriums with lounge areas on top and a big staircase here in the middle. And we wanted a very open, big space, so we didn't want very many columns. We have 3 giant columns here that has staircases, elevators, and techniques coming up. But that's the only way to put techniques up through the building. Everything else is movable. And then we only have, as you see here when you see the real building, very few columns in the building. So that was a challenge for the engineer, of course, to make this big span, flexible span in the building, so we could achieve what we wanted to, this very open cityscape, more or less, inside. This is from the cantina, where you look down to the sports, and up here you have the different slabs. So when you're standing, here's when there's a big opening, plenum day at the school. There's 1,200 students at this school. That's 12,000 square meters. So when you look up in the middle of the cantina, you have this. You can see the whole idea of the school with a staircase going all the way up to the roof, and you can see all the different slabs coming out. And when you're standing on first floor, you have the idea of the cantina with a staircase going down to the sports area that can be used as a stage as well. And when you're standing on first floor, you can see the whole idea of the cityscape. We wanted to assemble a cityscape because there you can find your own place. It has references to Italian, small Italian villages or Greek villages, where you can find a nice spot where you feel comfortable. So there's a big diversity in there, and that's very important if you want a big open space as a learning environment. The staircase is a mean for people to meet, so everybody has to walk up the staircase. And the students, they like to work in group work like this here, because this is what they do at home. This was actually meant for intermission, but they use this for group work. And the acoustics are, of course, very important in the space here, so you can have things happening here and there and everywhere at the same time without disturbing each other. But again, it is if somebody starts yelling up here, they're disturbing people down here. So they don't do that, and that's part of the behavior idea of the school. But the whole thing, constructively, is a very simple construction, very few columns. So you have the possibility of a very flexible space. Later on, you can move these auditoriums away if you want to have a new setup, and that's the idea behind the shape. And that building here made the idea for a working place too, because this is about interaction, it is about meeting, it is about a learning environment. It's very relevant when you do modern office spaces too. So when we did this bank here, that is a very successful bank because they don't loan money out, they only invest money. So they are a bank that is moving forward, so we wanted to show the building as something that is moving forward. That's why it has this leaning character. But actually it is designed from inside out, more or less, with floors that flips from one side to the other, so you have double high floors here, single high spaces out here, and these are big open spaces for trading floors, and out here you have the small cell offices, and no corridors inside the building. It is a cast concrete construction, and with the columns leaning together with the building, it was a bit of a challenge together with the budget, of course. And we had a budget for the building, as we always have as architects and engineers. But we were quite successful in keeping the building within the budget in this way here, and very much because it's a prefabricated building beside from the cast concrete. The facade is aluminum and glass, and built in elements and just hanged up on the building afterwards. So we can, with the triangular facade, we can get the shape of a morphed shape of the building. And the building becomes not a window facade building, but more a big pattern, a big shape. So when you come inside the building, we have a staircase in the center of the building, and the columns and the construction becomes something that enhances the idea of the building. Everything is moving in there, and that's part of the idea too. We didn't want a stationary thing. We wanted a very dynamic building showing what this bank is about. I was just in with another client yesterday, actually, showing the building again, and it's completely different inside now. They have completely changed the interior decoration inside, but the architecture is fairly simple, actually, and it can take a lot of different setups in there. There's 900 people working in there, and it's 16,000 square meters. So the brutto net of factor is fairly good in the building as well. The next project is a museum in Liverpool that we are finishing this summer. That we work together with Bureau Hubble. It is on a very difficult site, a World Heritage site in Liverpool, where you actually should not build anything. And actually, you can see this building, this picture here, they made a new canal, and the canal is actually going underneath the building. So there was a lot of challenges here. This is the very center of the harbor of Liverpool. Nothing has happened for 100 years because the whole shipping industry went down. And that was, of course, why so much was left untouched and why we became a heritage site. So what we ended up with designing was more a nexus, connecting all the different lines in the area, more than we did a building. This is a museum that's going to tell the story about Liverpool, so it is relevant to have a meeting point for the city. It was a very short competition, where we only had 3 weeks to come up with a solution, and we did this little film. During this 3 weeks, we went to Liverpool on a rainy day. That's why we made this film in blue and white. We have the same kind of weather in Denmark because we import it from over there. But this is the three graces, as it's called in Liverpool. Three very important buildings from the happy days of the shipping industry in Liverpool. Now it's the city council that are staying in there. And this is the point they pointed out for the new building. There used to be a shipyard here, and that is why we started to work in these ship forms. At the same time, they wanted this canal going through the site underneath the building. And what we wanted to do was to do a construction, as I said, as a nexus, a crossing point of all the different lines in the area. So we came up with this crisscross shape. At this stage here, where we only worked 3 weeks, we didn't even know where the entrance was, but we just wanted to have an idea about you can walk through the building and you can see what is happening inside the building. It's free to go into museums in England, so you don't have to think about only going in one way. You could actually go in several ways in the building. So we made 3 entrances at the building at the end. The museum is going to show the history of Liverpool, locomotives to the Beatles collection to football to anything. A lot of changing exhibitions. So the inside of the building should be more or less flexible, but the outside they wanted an iconic building. There the iconic comes up again. So that was why we made this reference to what used to be the shipyard, the ship shapes. At the same time, we have a tunnel underneath here, and we have a canal coming underneath here too. So the building is designed more or less like a big bridge construction as well. Here is a rendering just for the master planning of how it's situated. And this is from the planning permission as well. You can see the canal coming in underneath the building here, and how it meets the city. The main entrance is here. And we have 2 big galleries on top, 2 on the ground floor, and a staircase in the middle connecting all the different floors. So this is not a concrete construction. We started off with a concrete construction, but ended up with a steel construction. Very much because of the weight load that we had to come down into the ground with. There is a tunnel underneath, the tunnel that connects the one side of Liverpool with Birkenhead on the other side, and there's a canal underneath the building. So it is a very, very complicated site. So we ended up, after trying to make a concrete construction, we ended up doing it in steel. And but we wanted a stone building from the outside, because all the other buildings are stone buildings at the site too. So we started working with in 1 to 5 here with different kinds of stone patterns, because all the other buildings has relief on the outside. So we wanted a relief as well. And here in 1 to 1, a relief that we came up with. So this is in real life how we hang the facade up. This is a Dural marble facade that we hanged up on a. Here the concrete comes in because it's on a concrete surface, but on a steel construction. So this is how it ends up looking, and it looks actually like quite a heavy building at the end. But it is a light steel building, as made as a steel, as a bridge construction. And we have the big staircases. You can come in, walk through the building as we could at the very first idea I showed you, and come out and see if you're interested to see the exhibitions. So it's a very open building for a museum to be. And its cladding has something to do with the pavement of the area too. We didn't do this. This was another landscape architect that did. But there's a clear connection between all the different materials in the area. And this is from inside Liverpool, looking out to the building. So here it's clearly that the iconic site comes out of the building when you see it from out from the water, but it is more humble than the old buildings. It's under the level of the old building, so the old building is still standing up. They are called the Three Graces, so they are very important for Liverpool. So that is why we made it as a lower building, but it's not a low-key building. So it's both humble and standing out at the same time. The next building I will show you here was a very big challenge, was an aquarium in Copenhagen that we just started building up, the Blue Planet. Because when you do a building like this, I think it's fun to tell a story about what's inside the building. I think most aquariums are just constructions, or they look like factories, they look like anything but something that has to do with water. But we don't want the fish to come up on the water. We want the people to come down in the water and look at the fish actually. So you sort of look at the fish in the right element. So we worked a long time to come up with the right idea, and the inspiration came actually from a whirlpool for the whole shape of the building. Something that sucks the people into the water and into the element of the fish. And it worked very, very well with the ideas of the layout too. The client had sort of this diagram, not exactly, but sort of this diagram that you come into the center in a foyer space, and there you can choose your own way to the different aquariums. And if you put that into a whirlpool, you get this shape. Another thing is that the client wanted a possibility of extend the building later with 30%, and you can do that with this shape here. Even as it's very amorph, you can add to it forever, more or less. And then you come into the building, you walk through a pool down into the pool, into the center foyer space where you're underneath an aquarium, and then you walk into the hot water, the tropic forest, and the cold Nordic Sea and whatever, and can choose which way. In here we have the sharks, and if it's a normal set out where you have to follow one route, you always get stuck with the sharks, because all the kids want to see the sharks and then you cannot pass them. But here you can see, there's too many people in here, so you can choose the other way. And that's very much part of the idea of our design. So it's actually next to the airport of Copenhagen. So the fifth facade is very, very important too, because it's, when you land, you look down on the whole setup, and this is the view you get of this whirlpool idea. And it's fairly easy today with the computers and all the techniques we have to design. It's more to keep it within a budget. And that was actually, it was a two-stage competition where the first stage we were chosen between two architects, and then we had to work for a long time to convince the client that we could keep it within the budget, because there's no extra money. And we ended up convincing them, and now we're actually building because we are within the budget. That's a good thing. We have had the tender, and we are building now. But what to make it, what to build it off, which materials? We went through a lot of different tests. So this is a factory in Denmark, in Faaborg, where they do big forms, from where we could do it, work in glass fiber, or we could work in concrete or whatever. And here's a Danish technology center where they work in amorph shapes in concrete. And here's a factory that works in glass fiber. I think we tried it all, and what we ended up with was a fairly traditional construction, more related to normal ways of building buildings or boats with spans going like this with a concrete construction on the base, and then with these steel frames coming up, making the main frame, and then a number of layers with a this moving steel plate, and on the outside aluminum shingles that can be formed in any kind of shape. So it is all the aquariums, of course, and it is a double layer construction with all the techniques down here. It's a concrete construction, but everything up here is steel and aluminum. But there's a lot of different. There's no repetition in this shape here, so it was difficult to find a way to do it in a economical way. Actually, I would have liked to make it in cast concrete, but that was it was far beyond the budget, so we had to do it this way here too. But I think it'd be quite nice. It's going to look like this here too. Some say that this looks like a whale, but it doesn't matter. It has something to do with water. It is the idea is a whirlpool, but you can get any kind of vision when you see it from the ground level, and another vision when you see it from the air. This corner here we have done in a mock-up, and here you have it in one-to-one as a mock-up, and we have played with that and put different kinds of cladding on it, and we are ending up with this kind of cladding on the facade. It's aluminum that is with lacquer on it in this shape here, and then we can follow all the different forms in an easy way because it's so small elements. It's fairly easy to get the big shape of the building. These parts and these parts are with a foil that is it's not glass, but it's a foil that can take the shape, so you can get daylight into the building where it's necessary. So this is how it's going to look from the air. And we had another challenge about the aquarium, that you come in underneath. When you walk into the building, you walk down in this pond here, down the water, and then you come into the aquarium here. And this here was meant to be a big aquarium with fish in. But just the heavy load of it and the cleanings of the water was so difficult. So we made a big test, and together with a light artist, we made this feature here. And then we called the client in and said, and then we had a sample with the real water and this sample with the light feature. And we asked the client which one he liked the best, and he said, I want the real thing, this thing here. I said, good, that's light. So he thought that was the real thing. But anyway, it's so that's how, of course, we have to cheat sometimes. Of course, the client was afraid that now we would put films in the aquariums instead of fish, but that's not the case. But here it was impossible to do this aquarium within a budget. Of course, you can do it, but it was a huge glass plate we had to make there, and it was over the limit. The inside has the shapes of the outside too, so you have this feeling of being underneath the waves. I think I will pass this. The next building I will tell about is a concrete building all the way through here. It is better towers that we're doing in Copenhagen right now. It is 2 towers that started up like this, and then you have no visual contact to the surroundings from the rooms next to each other. So what we did was to tilt them in this way, actually 16 degrees. So you get a view out. It is a practical thing. At the same time, it becomes very iconical, of course, for the building, because it's quite different from anything else. But this is the entrance to Øresat, to the new city in Copenhagen. So there we thought it was really relevant to do something extra. Another thing is, it's connected to this big fair that is so ugly. So to make a building here that takes all the view off the ugliness here, is relevant to make a very iconical building. It is a steel construction. It is 76.5 meter high. That's exactly the height we are allowed to make, because there's an airport very close to there. We're not even allowed to have just a little thing sticking up. I don't know if how low the plane comes, but this is the case. There's 24 stories, 2 connecting bridges, one up here and one there. 814 4 stars. It's not 8,000, it's 814 rooms. And 44,000 square meters. So it is a leaning building. It's actually leaning a little bit more than the Pisa Tower. It's only leaning 4 degrees now. I think it was leaning more earlier. But this is leaning 15 degrees. So it was quite a challenge, and to even to make the challenge a little bit bigger, we twisted the top here and the bottom here, so it is double twisting. So the main forces are, this an engineer that made the slide here for me. I didn't make it. So it's 1,200,000 kilonewton, and the reaction up here is, yeah, you can read it. But it was quite a challenge to get this concrete structure to stick together in an economical way. What we ended up with was a construction that was 5% more expensive than if it were just a straightforward up and down tower. So it wasn't all that more expensive to make it leaning. And that was, of course, we had to prove that again before we were allowed to make the design. There's always a budget in everything in Denmark, as there is in Holland too. But the interesting thing is how it has been built too, with mountain climbers on the outside. When you have a leaning facade like this here, you cannot have a gondola that just come down. It's too far out. So you have to have a special way of mounting the whole facade and cleaning it afterwards too. So it has been a very good experience to see how the mountain climbers are having fun around the building, mounting all the facade here on the building. So this is how it looks now when it's close to be finished. It is a pattern that has got two angles, the angle of the 15 degrees and a straight angle, and this becomes the pattern of the facade. The facade is in aluminum again, but it's a very sharp facade, and this is how it looks now. Yeah, actually.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.